Jake Evans was just 17 years old, living in the United States with his mother and younger sister. Like many teens, Jake enjoyed watching movies, especially horror. One of his favorites was Halloween, particularly the 2007 version, which he had watched 3 times. But unlike most viewers who move on after the credits roll, Jake's experience was disturbingly different. In his written confession, Jake described coming home from a doctor's appointment, turning on the TV, and watching Halloween. In that film, the main character, also a teenager, unalives his own mother and sister. What struck Jake wasn't just the violence, but how easily it all seemed to happen, and how the character felt no regret afterward. That thought lingered. Later that day, Jake went out to play golf to clear his mind. But the idea kept gnawing at him. What would it feel like if I did the same thing? Slowly, that dark curiosity began to take shape. He began planning. First, he decided he would unalive his mother and younger sister. Then he thought of going to his grandparents' house next, and even considered unaliving his older sister who lived separately, so she wouldn't be left behind. That evening, around 9 p.m., Jake was in his room watching Family Guy when his younger sister Mallory entered and asked if they could watch a movie together. He refused, still angry from earlier when she made a racially insensitive comment at the doctor's office. But moments later, he knocked on her door and invited her to watch Waterboy together. She agreed, unaware of what was about to unfold. Jake excused himself during the movie, claiming he was going to get a pen. Instead, he went and grabbed his grandfather's gun. In his words, he wanted to make their deaths painless, as if that would somehow make it more acceptable. After pacing the house for nearly an hour, he finally acted. He unalived Mallory first. When she didn't pass immediately, he reloaded and fired again, apologizing as he pulled the trigger. Then he went to his mother's room and unalived her as well, making sure she was gone. In shock and disbelief, Jake stepped outside to process what he had done. Minutes later, he returned, placed the gun on the kitchen table, sat in the living room, and called the police. He confessed everything. When officers arrived, they were stunned. A horrific scene, and the person behind it was a teenager who had no history of abuse, bullying, or trauma. He lived a normal life. His only explanation, he wanted to feel what it was like to recreate the movie. Jake was sentenced to 45 years in prison. This tragedy highlights the danger of unchecked influence. Not all young minds can distinguish fiction from reality, and some are more vulnerable than others. That's why, as the narrator stressed at the end, it's vital for parents to monitor what their children are watching and look out for red flags, like a fascination with violence, cruelty to animals, or extreme emotional outbursts.